Hi everyone. So today I wanted to talk about this incredible story that is making television here in Sarasota and the newspapers all the way up to Tampa. WFLA covered this. So you can Google it, and I'm going to tell you about it, although I'm not naming names because we're really not supposed to name names in these kinds of stories. But it brings up an incredible issue that I want to just talk to you about. When you're selecting a real estate agent, one of the things you need to be aware of. So normally real estate stories don't make the news here. I mean, the joke is that if you get pulled over by a cop, the odds are you will have your real estate license being shown to the cop, because there's so many of us, more so than your driver's license, that the odds of more people will be pulled over who have real estate license than driver's licenses. I don't know if that's true, which is kind of. But because Sarasota is such a highly desirable place to live, there are lots of real estate agents like myself. But one of the things we have to deal with is the ethics of how we take on responsibilities and transactions. And I'm not going to name names because that's not what I'm intending to do here. But there was a huge story that broke yesterday I went all the way up to Tampa television. WFLA covered it, and there were newspaper stories about an agent who represented both sides of the deal, and the highest deal that was offered didn't get accepted. So when that person found out that his deal, in his opinion, was not the highest deal that was accepted, he was kind of angry about it. And the fact that he's a prosecutor sort of added fuel to the fire. And so what does it mean exactly to have both sides of the deal? Well, you, as a client, you're looking for property, you contact a real estate agent, and the agent, maybe in his or her head, will know of properties, but if they're really lucky, they'll actually have a property that's listed with their company and their name. And so when the agent is presenting a deal that is not only from his client, who is a buyer, but also one who is a seller, then that's considered both sides of the deal. So this actually happened to me. It was kind of a crazy story, and I'll just give you, by not talking about the case that's now in the media that you can Google your heart's content to. When I first moved to Florida, I told my real estate agent, find me a house that is as close to the water as you can with the budget that I have. And so the agent took us to some properties starting down in Venice and Naples, where I had sticker shock. And then we moved further northward to the Bradenton area, where the prices were definitely better. And we had this list of properties that we looked at. And in the 2-day period of looking at properties, there was one that he mentioned was on Anna Maria Island. And so he said, but you can't see it because it just went on the market today, and the tenants who rent there all the time are sick. Well, being the former investigative reporter that I was, I hightailed over to that property, and sure enough, it was a block off of Tampa Bay, beautiful water view, 3-story home, built to Hurricane Andrew standards, everything I absolutely wanted. And so I made an offer that day, and it got accepted. What we would later find out is that the reason we were told that the clients or that the people who were renting were sick is because the agent wanted to hold the listing for himself because he thought he had some people who would be interested in it. And if that had been the case, if they had gotten the contract in before we did, that agent would have gotten both sides of the deal. So in our case, it didn't happen. And we were very lucky and able to get the property that I looked at. So that gives you an idea of why somebody would want both sides of the deal, because with some of these high net worth homes out there, you know, instead of $100,000 commission, you would get $200,000 if you had both sides of the deal. Now, let me just say that most commissions aren't that high, but when you're talking big bucks with some of these properties, it can be just that high. So, or even higher. And what happens is people get greedy. It's all about greed and wanting to be able to secure as much as you can when you are involved in some of these deals. So, you know, from my perspective, I come from, not that, you know, people say sometimes that, you know, anybody can be responsive to money, that money talks. Yes, it does. But as an agent, you know, this license, I take it very seriously. And just as I was a TV investigative reporter and I put people in jail for doing unspeakable crimes that eventually they would get convicted of, you know, you have to be able, when you pick an agent, know their integrity, know their background. It's not just about, okay, you have all these high listings, you have a lot of listings, so that must mean you know your stuff. Well, you may know certain things, but when it comes down to negotiations and acting with integrity, and again, I'm not saying that in this particular case that is receiving a lot of attention, I'm not presuming guilt or innocence, and not talking about that specific case, but it really does bring up these issues. What are you looking for when you hire an agent to work on your behalf? Obviously, somebody who's going to be tireless and has a good staff and good reputation, not only for themselves, but the company that they work for. All those things are really important. And how do you even know? I mean, is a Google recommendation, is that something that you are willing to stake your life savings on? So these are the kinds of things that I think are really important, and you have to evaluate how much can you invest in time and money and resources with a person you may or may not know. And sometimes even people you know, you think you know, and then you get into these kind of precarious situations where am I being represented in the best way possible? So I hope that kind of addresses some of the things that we are, as agents, because of this headline, are wrestling with. You know, how do we prevent it? How do we prevent that kind of thing from happening in our own business? And you know, if you are in a situation where your agent is working both sides of the deal, it's okay to ask questions about it. And you know, in my situation that I went through when I first moved to Florida, I was very lucky, and that I did get the home that I wanted and had the highest and best offer. And let's just talk about that for a minute, because sometimes when an offer is presented, it's not necessarily the highest price that gets acceptance. Sometimes it is waiving an inspection, or removing all contingencies, not having financing, being cash. So those are the kinds of things that can add, when we use the phrase highest and best offer, those kinds of factors can be important as well. So just wanted to throw that out there. Be an educated consumer when you are shopping, and if I can help you out, please do let me know. Let me know what you think, and if you've done your homework and researched this story, feel free to chime in down below just about, you know, the ethics and the issues that it brings up. You know, how do you know what, for yourself, how do you know that you picked an agent that is good for you? All right, be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one, and thanks for watching.